Oh, I guess that was it. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another chapter, another version of It's iBug's Life, where every fourth Thursday of the month, we discuss ways that you can do adaptations and fix things from the non-visual perspective. And this month we are have titled "If I Had a Hammer," where we're going to be talking about the use of like little small tools if you want to do some fixing or repairing, and what things that you would use, and maybe even can sprinkle in a little some more industrial, well, not real big type of tools. And then we're also going to wrap up with me. I'm going to share my experience with utilizing things, how I built a couple of projects. But before we get into all of that, we want to thank everybody for being here. This is iBUG, where we have several different platforms throughout the week that you can attend. Our website is ibugtoday.com or ibugtoday.org. That's spelled IBUG TODAY. And the previous extension that I mentioned, .org or .com. Either one of those that you dial up in the URL will get you to the iBug website, where you can find out all calendar events, all information, what iBug is all about, what we do, what programs we have in place, and as well as all of the different schedules that happens throughout the week and throughout the month. One thing that's going to happen on a regular basis is every week we have an iBug movie where you can tune in at 7:30 Central Time. Now, whatever time zone you're in, do the math. If you're in Eastern Time, it's 1 hour. In Pacific, it's 2 hours behind. And wherever else you may be calling from, make the adjustments accordingly. And that starts at 7:30, where it's like a meet and greet social. Say, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the movie. Grab your popcorn, grab your candy, grab your wings or whatever you snack on during the movie, as well as, and then the movie will start promptly at 8 p.m. Central Time. This week movie is a movie called Traffic. This was a movie that was starring Michael Douglas, I believe. And this is the audio described MP3 version of the movie. So that way everybody can enjoy the movie as if you were there at the theater. So we actually let you tune in tomorrow, May 26th at 8 p.m. Central Time, and see this award-winning movie called Traffic, starring Michael Douglas. And I forget the other cats that's in there, but you can actually go to the website and read up on all the information as well. And as well as most of you probably have received communications about the movie as well via email or on the social media platforms like Facebook and on the listserv. And that's about it for as far as this week. This is going to be a long weekend. I'm not sure, and I forgot to ask Michael if there's going to be a meeting Monday night. We usually have the beginning for people who are beginning users of iDevices. We'll meet at from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time on Monday, where you can get all your questions answered. But since this Monday is a holiday, which is Memorial Day, I would say stay tuned for announcements. I'm sure they're going to probably announce it tomorrow as well at the beginning of the movie, if there will be a meeting this Monday or not.
George, this is
Yes.
Jody. Yes,
Hey,
there
Jody.
will be an iBug Buzz on Monday.
iBug. Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember the title of it. So there will be a meeting on Monday. So after you have eaten your ribs or whatever you celebrate your Memorial Day, stay tuned in for this Monday at 7 p.m. So without further ado, that's all the announcements that I have to bring forth to you. What I want to do now is find out who's all in the room. Now, you may have heard the automated lady says the meeting is being recorded. You probably got an alert at the bottom so that you can agree that to be in a room is going to be recorded. So you may have to go down and hit your got it button to be able to unmute yourself. So right now, what I want everybody to do is come off mute and say your name and where you are calling from. I didn't introduce myself. My name is George. I'm here in Houston, Texas. I work for Texas Workforce Commission, and I also, I think that's it. I just says name and where city he comes from. So this is George. I'm from Houston. Who wants to go next? Say your name and the city that you're calling from. Go ahead, Elisa.
Oh, sorry. Elisa and Porter.
Okay, Lisa's important.
Bridget in Atlanta.
Bridget in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Bridget. Julie's from Houston. Okay.
They're from Seattle.
Seattle, welcome.
Kathy from Tulsa.
Kathy's from Tulsa. We all over the map.
Vincent, New Jersey. Marty from Philadelphia.
Marty from Philadelphia.
Vincent from New Jersey.
New Jersey. Gotcha.
Yes.
Linda from Humble.
Linda from Humble.
Ned from Kyle, Texas.
Hey, Ned. Hey, Ned, I just heard about an event in Kyle, Texas, where they try to get as many people named Kyle to come to the city of Kyle. And I think they was able to get like about 1,500 Kyles to show up. They wanted to break the record for the most people with the first name in a particular city of that same name.
Yes, I
just
heard
happened
that.
like last week.
Yeah, I did hear that in the news, but I don't know if we broke the record. But yes, a lot of Kyles did show up.
I heard that you guys didn't break the record. Then they say that the record for, and this is worldwide, happened in a place called Ireland, I think, or one of those way eastern countries. And they had like 2,500 Ivans to show up there. But that still was a lot of Kyles. Okay, I digress a little bit. Who else is here besides Kyle? Besides Ned from Kyle.
Gloria from Houston.
Lori from Houston. Who was the other person? I was talking. I didn't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jerry from Oklahoma, Tulsa.
Jerry from Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay. Anybody else?
Ed from
Sarah from Vermont.
I heard Vermont. And I heard Ed from, where you from?
Georgetown, Ontario.
Oh, he's from Canada. Okay.
Yeah.
Arlene, North Carolina.
Arlene in North Carolina.
Dan,
Welcome.
Southern California.
Who's from California?
It's Dan, Southern California.
Dan, California. Okay, great. Welcome.
Jody from New Hampshire.
Jody from New Hampshire. Anybody else?
Hi, Julie in New York.
Say it again.
Julie in New York.
Julie in New York. Okay, we got two Julies. New York. Are you in New York City or just in New York State?
New York State.
Okay. New York City is still on my bucket list. I want to visit that city.
No, little upstate.
Okay. Anybody else? Do we get everybody? Okay. Hearing crickets, that means we got everybody. Well, again, welcome to all of you. Actually, what I probably should have done was, as you said your name and where you're from, have you had any type of experience messing with tools of any kind? So y'all can just come out and just say, yes, I've experienced with tools, and no, I have no idea. I don't mess with tools at all. Let's just get a few people come off mic and say that.
Jody, yes.
Okay.
Really, no.
No.
Some.
Okay. Some.
What kind of tools are you talking about? This is Sarah.
Any kind of tools for like fixing stuff.
Like hammers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yes.
Okay. All right.
Linda,
yes,
yes.
a no, and a some.
This is Ed. Lots and lots.
Lots and lots.
All kinds.
Oh.
Linda, yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Okay.
No.
Elisa, no. Oh, we got to get you started. Okay, here's what I want to do now. Gonna have a little fun. I have written down about 15 things that I came off the top of my head that I would say could be a tool that you can use for like fixing stuff or building stuff. So I want to see if you guys can name all 15 of them, or you may even get more than that. So somebody just name a tool.
Screwdriver.
Screwdriver, 1.
Wrench.
Hammer.
Wrench, 2. Hammer, 3.
Hammer.
I got you.
Screwdriver.
Got another screwdriver.
Oh, sorry.
Alisa, the screws that you put in the wall. I don't know what to call them.
Okay, screws. We can call that
Handsaw.
a tool or supplies. We got a
Saw.
saw. Okay,
Drill.
drill. Up to 7.
Pliers. Level.
Well, I heard 2
Wood
things.
file.
Level.
Level. Okay, 8. I don't even have that
Allen
written down.
wrench.
Allen wrench is 9.
Did you get wood file?
Wood file?
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't get that. Okay. That's 10.
Sand. pliers.
Sandpaper. Well,
Sandpaper, 11.
Nothing but
Okay.
laser.
Flexible wrenches.
Yeah, they got hacksaw. Okay.
Oh, a lathe.
What was that?
A lathe.
What? Okay, now you need to tell me what that is. I don't have that written down. What's a lathe?
A lathe. I think it's LATHE, and wood spins on it, and you hold like screwdrivers against it and make legs for wooden tables and things.
Okay. Okay. I may have seen it, but just didn't know the proper term for it. There's one, and you guys pretty much have succeeded in my list that I was able to think of, but there's one that no one has not said yet. I'm shocked. There's one.
Wire cutter?
I mean, one. Say it again.
Pliers. Did you get
There
pliers?
you go. Pliers. No one never
The
said pliers.
C-clamp. And I was saying wire cutters.
Wire cutters. Okay. Okay. So these are little simple household tools that I think everybody should have. These are some of the things you probably will find even in your average toolkit. Which is type of a popular gift item that you probably will find around Christmas time, around Father's Day. Some reason everybody think fathers all need tools. And so that's a popular gift item. So within
This
a
is Marty.
toolkit. Go ahead, Marty.
Level.
Yeah, someone said level. Got you. Okay.
Oh, I thought I didn't know
Level.
someone said that.
That's good. That's okay. That's not a problem. It's on the list. It wasn't on my list, but it was on the list of everybody else who screamed them out. But it's pretty important. But in most of your toolkits, yeah, you will find a hammer. You will find several different kinds of screwdrivers. You will find wrenches. You will find pliers. You will find, no one didn't say tweezers. Now, you won't find a saw in a toolkit. That's a kind of big, unless it's like or at least let's say I've never seen a saw in a basic toolkit. Now, you can get some toolkits that are more extensive, where you can probably find all kind of stuff. But you're not going to find, I haven't seen a saw in one of those. Now, screwdrivers. Yes, we have several different kinds of screwdrivers, but there are 2 basic ones. Who know the 2 basic ones? Besides Dan, I know you know.
Arlene,
Go ahead, Arlene.
Phillips, and Flathead.
Okay. And what's the difference between the 2 for somebody who probably have no idea what a Phillips screwdriver is and what a flathead screwdriver is?
Flathead is straight, and you use it with screws that just have like one straight groove in the screw, the head of the screw.
Mm-hmm.
And the Phillips it's for screws that have like an X at the top on the head of the screw.
Okay, good job. And she's right. The Phillips screwdriver has like 4 slots, or like you can think of an X, that you will use for those type of screws where the indentation will be like that as well. Sometimes you may have some screws where you can use both, But for the most part, if it has the four insertions, four like little indentions, you probably basically want to use the fiddle screwdriver to either unscrew or screw something in. And most of the time, if you're screwing something in, you're going to turn your screwdriver clockwise. And if you're unscrewing, you're probably going to go counterclockwise. And that's part of your basic tools. Now, you also have some power screwdrivers or electric screwdrivers, which is a electric screwdriver or power screwdriver can serve two purposes. One, it does help for unscrewing or screwing something a lot quicker because it spins, it's mechanic, it's electric, or maybe a rechargeable battery, and it won't take as long. But you will need to have a thing what we call bits to put into this particular power screwdriver. The bits are probably about, let me look at one real quick. Probably about, I'm thinking an inch or half an inch, about an inch or half an inch in length for the most part. They come in different sizes too. And the reason why they come in different sizes is because not all screws are the same size. But if you have the power screwdriver that I'm speaking of, there's a little knob at the end that you need to twist, and it opens up like, again, if you know me, I don't have the proper terminology for when I'm describing parts of stuff. But let's just, for the sake of this particular presentation, we're going to call them like T's, or something that holds the bit in place. And there usually are four of them. Now, when the little knob is turned all the way in, you're not going to feel any opens. But if you twist it counterclockwise, it opens it up, which will allow you to insert the back of the bit into it and then tighten it back up. And so that way, if you need to unscrew something or screw something, this is the way you can do without twisting a screwdriver manually. It is kind of like something that will save time and help you to get something done more efficient. A power screwdriver can also serve as a drill. Because you have like drill bits if you need to drill a hole in something. For example, if I want to, this probably don't happen that much today, but I would say maybe 15 years ago, when you want to have cable running throughout your place in multiple rooms. And instead of having like, this is the way you're going to split your cable. And you can actually probably want to run a hole like along, like maybe like the baseboard of the room, just big enough that only the wire will fit through. Not trying to drill a big old hole that you can walk through or that you can stick your fist through, but just enough that it's going to allow that cable wire to go through. And it could be a telephone, any kind of wire that you want to run through the wall or something like that. That's what you may use this little portable, electric screwdriver that can serve as your drill. And the drill bits also come in different sizes. They have some that are very small, and they can go up in sizes as well. And it just has enough grooves in it that you hold it steady and straight, and it will put an even hole inside of the wall. I think when I first moved to Houston, I used to live in an apartment, and that's what I did. I had like multiple rooms. Of course, I have multiple TVs in the room. And instead of having like multiple cable boxes, I think I just got a cable splitter, put one in that feed directly into the main TV, and then there's like an extra cable coax plug that I could put on the other end, run the cable through the wall that I used to drill with to get through there, and hook it up, connected to the other TV. So it was like a way I was having cable throughout the place without paying for an extra cable box, because I think most cable companies, at least the one here, will charge you an extra fee for having multiple boxes. Not a big fee, maybe like an extra $3 or $5 a month. And then unless they have like some kind of specials going on. So That's the screwdrivers and the power screws. Now, we also have different kind of wrenches. Now, a wrench can be described as if you want to hold something in place, because it has like a knob near the top that opens and closes the little part at the top that you want to hold something in place and you want to grip it. And when you want to tighten it up, like if you're putting this wrench around, let's say like a pipe or something that you want to hold it in place while you're doing another motion with another tool. With a wrench, you can once you've got it to fit around what you want to hold it in place, you take the little knob that I was speaking of that is near the top, and it's on both sides. You can take like your thumb and your index finger to, it's going to serve like a roller where you will roll it up or down, and this will either widen it or close the gap so that it can hold it in place. And like I may use a wrench on, if I want to, I think I use it one time, like if I'm changing a toilet seat, and I want the bolt to like just stay in place and don't move, but I want to be able to twist like the nut thing, so it won't move it out. It's almost like if you don't have someone or an extra hand to hold something in place, that's what a wrench is good for. You may find pipe wrenches, especially if you, pipes have to be fastened extremely tight. So a wrench would definitely help that the tool itself not be moving all over the place. It helps hold it in place while you twist it to tighten it up. And now I think it was Dan. Someone mentioned about an Allen wrench. Anybody have an idea what an Allen wrench is, or have heard of an Allen wrench?
Yes, it looks like an L.
It looks like an Allen.
This is Terry.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to answer your question, but I think the wrench that you were describing with the little wheel or the little roller that you turn with your finger, I think that's called a ratcheting wrench.
Okay, thank you.
And the jaws that the thing that you put around whatever it is you're going to loosen and tighten, those are the locking jaws. I know a lot of this stuff because I have a whole bunch of tools, and my dad owned a hardware store, and I love tools, so I. Anyhow, so an Allen wrench is they're individual. They come in all kinds of different sizes. They're long. Oh, they're several inches long. They can be longer. They can be shorter. They are wide or narrow, but they're a type of wrench that you put on a device. You fasten the wrench at one end. They also call it a key, an Allen key, but it's used to tighten or loosen fasteners or
I know what you're saying. It's like a fastening device. Go ahead, Ned.
Yes, an Allen wrench. Terry's doing a good job. It's kind of an L-shaped kind of device. So the long end of it is the you can put either end into the opening. I used the Allen wrenches when I was opening doors at like an auditorium or a gym or a school. You want the panic bar to stay down, or you want the panic bar to stay in. So you just stick the Allen wrench into that opening and you screw it tight so the panic bar will stay open so people from the outside can come into your event. And then, like when the school day would start, you'd lock the door so nobody could come in. They had to be buzzed in.
Right, right.
This is Vincent.
The Allen
This is
wrench
Ed.
is something that you use. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, and also for if you buy any piece of furniture that needs assembly, whether it's a cabinet, a table, or a chair, many times the screws don't have a flathead or a Phillips head. They have an Allen. They require an Allen wrench in order to tighten them.
Exactly. That's what I was leading up to. Like Alyssa had talked. No, not Alyssa. I forgot her name. When she mentioned about you have a flathead and you have a Phillips, and it depends on what screws. Sometimes furniture, like you mentioned, tables, chairs, dressers, whatever it is, they use these other type of bolts that the top of it, the opening, needs an Allen wrench. And an Allen wrench has like 6 sides, 6 indentions, to where a flathead or a Phillips screwdriver won't do any good at all. It won't move. You just mess up your screwdriver, something like that. So you need an Allen wrench to help. That's why I'm just sitting down. Then loosen or unloosen that. And they, like Terry's mentioned, they do come in all different sizes as well. Kind of like the screws and screwdriver in different sizes. And it's good to get a good Allen wrench set because you may have about probably 8 to 10 different ones if you got like a full Allen wrench set. And that way you'd be well prepared that if you have something, like let's say you have like some dining room chairs and you got a company or just over the years you sat in them and they kind of like wear down a little bit, especially if they're wooden. And if you need to tighten it up a little bit, that's what these Allen wrenches are for. You can tighten it up to where you get real good and tight, and is to keep your chairs from squeaking and can last a little long because it's just something that just happens. They do get wear and tear, but normally you would need not a Phillips, not a flathead, but you need an Allen wrench to tighten up those particular bolts.
This is
Ed.
Vincent. I'm sorry.
This is Ed.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe an Allen wrench has 5 sides to it. And the one place that you will find a lot of little Allen keys or Allen wrenches or use for them is on your taps, like to take the handle off, or some of the bathroom fixtures, like the handle on a shower. Sometimes we'll have an Allen, you'll use an Allen key to take the handle off or tighten it. And the same with some of the towel bars. Use a very small Allen key to hold them on. So you'll a lot of these kits that you'll get, they'll have a little small Allen key, which will come in very useful in situations like that. The other place where you'll see Allen keys is if you buy a variable tipped screwdriver, say a screwdriver that has slot heads and Phillips. And there's also a Robinson head, which is a square head. And now there's a new head called a Torx tip, which is like a star. The piece that slides into the handle of the multi-tip screwdriver is an Allen key. Like it's a 5-sided Allen wrench, only the Allen key, but it's used to slide into the screwdriver, so it'll have that on one side, and on the other end it'll have the slot head or the Robinson or the slot or whatever. And you can buy a screwdriver with, say, a dozen or more different tips. And you can also get an Allen wrench or a key like that has a drill on the other end. There are kits where you can get a half a dozen or more drill bits that have that 5-sided Allen wrench on the other end, which will slide into it's easy to use it in a drill, or you can also just use a drill like that in a screwdriver if you want to put a hole in a wall for a plug or whatever. You don't really need a drill. So it's there's a lot of different uses for Allen keys. Anyways, that's all I had to say.
This is Vincent.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Vincent.
Yes, in order to get better control of it, the Allen wrench is L-shaped. So I use the shorter end of the Allen wrench to insert it and use the longer end for leverage and to turn it. That gives me much better control.
Correct.
And allows me not to strip, because sometimes they're very delicate. They can be stripped. I try not to use power tools with that because they usually can be stripped easily. And it's very, very hard to get replacements for that. But
Yeah,
one
and what
other
Vincent
thing,
is talking about. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you started. Go
one
ahead,
other
Vincent.
thing, when we're talking about wrenches, there are some areas where you can use a Nelson, a Stilson, and the different types of wrenches, adjustable wrenches. But there's one when you have a limited space that I use, and it's a vice grip that allows you to open the mouth a little bit more, and then there's a screw that opens or closes the mouth depending on the size that you want. And then when you handle when you press on the handles, it tightens around the bolt or the screw, whatever it is. And usually it's about a couple of inches long. So when you have to hold something or tighten something that is small or difficult to get to, I find that very useful.
Okay. All right. Somebody else had wanted to say something? Okay. Now, what Vincent was talking about, that's what I was going to follow up on. Sometimes you have to be careful when you're going to use, the power screwdriver or even just a regular manual one to know when enough is enough, when you've tightened it up, because, you don't want to strip it. Because when you strip it, it's going to cause a problem. And the problem will be is you have lost all of the slots, the defined slot, that hold it in place, and then you have trouble even unfastening it or fastening it. So that's why usually when you use it enough, because you will be able to develop the technique of knowing when you've got enough, what to listen for, how it feels, to know that if you are using a power tool, an electric one, when the sound it will make that it's time to stop, you don't want to go any further. Or even if you're doing it manually, you can tell, okay, you've gotten it tightened enough. Because, stripping it, which smooths it out, that's going to just cause more problems where if you need to get something off, then you got to use all kind of other measures to get that off. So you have to be careful as to how much pressure to apply and know exactly when to stop.
This is Ned.
Yes, Ned.
Yes, and I've done that where I've stripped the opening and then I've got to get my plastic wood out to fill it with plastic wood so that I get some type of a way to put the screw back in and it'll hold.
Absolutely. And all of these things we're talking about tonight, guys, don't cost that much at all. I mean, you can find a Allen wrenches. I don't even know the prices, so they're so low. I mean, it's less than $5 where you can get like a whole set of an Allen wrench. And then, of course, the more sizes you have, probably the higher the price may be. And even the little power screwdriver that I was talking about, they can range anywhere from probably, you can go to even Walmart and get one for probably like $20, and then they got some as high as $50. Depends on what you're looking for, what you want to do, how many features it have will determine the price. But all these things would not break the bank at all.
This is
Vincent.
Terry.
Okay, go ahead, Terry first, and then Vincent.
You can also buy Allen wrenches rather than buying individual ones. You can buy Allen wrenches that they're together in a metal housing type of thing, and you flip up the one you want. There's maybe 2 or 3 rows of them, depending upon how many you get in this little housing, this metal piece, this metal casing, and you flip up the one you want, you use it, and you put it back down in. You need another one, you flip that one up, and so that it's the only one sticking out, and you use that one, etc., etc. And if you don't want individual Allen wrenches or Allen keys, and they just all are together. You don't worry about losing any of them. And you can just put this thing in your pocket and just have it with you.
Yeah, I even have one in my computer bag. Go ahead, Vincent.
This is Dan with a question.
Okay, let Vincent go, then Dan. You got a question?
Okay, either screws, regular screws, or Allen screws. Never tighten them. Always just insert all of them, but just until you get a little bit of resistance, so you can make sure that everything is in the right place, that you put the right pieces together. Because if you tighten the first one, then it's going to be that's when you're going to strip your probably end up stripping the wood, especially if it's laminated or other things would weaken it. And one thing that I use when I have stripped or made a hole bigger, I use wooden toothpicks to fill in the hole to make it a little bit smaller. And that usually allows me to once again insert the screw and tighten it accordingly.
Okay, Dan, what's your question?
My question is for Terry. Where can I buy a case of Allen wrenches? That's exactly what I'm looking for.
The Allen wrenches that all come together in one housing type of a thing. Is that what you're asking about?
Yes.
You can buy them. You can buy them. Like a Home Depot, or a lot of places have them.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
You could probably buy them on AMAZON too.
And you also can find them in the hardware section of a Walmart. They're not that uncommon. And usually, if you mention that somebody that knows, a good person, will definitely know what you're talking about. If you're asking for the whole Allen wrench set.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be surprised if it's over $10. Okay. Any other?
This is Ed. This is Ed. What about Lowe's? Do you have Lowe's?
Lowe's is another good place. Exactly. Yeah. That's another good place. And
we have Lowe's up here too, and they have any kind of stuff, all kinds of tools and stuff. So that's a good place.
Okay. Any other thoughts on Allen wrenches or ranches? Now, another thing that I don't think we mentioned when I had us to name like different things that you would need is now, if you're going to be building something, let's say you decided you want to try to, have a project, or you might have to replace something, whatever it is, and you're going to need something. Like if you need to cut wood, or if you are assembling something together, you want to know exactly how long it would need to be. You're going to need either a ruler, basic, simple little ruler, or a tape measure. Tape measure, I will call it a tool. That's something that you can use, especially if you're going to be deciding you want to do something like some woodwork, you want to build something, you want to make a project, whatever. Or you may want to hang like some curtains or hang some mini blinds at your window. You're going to need to measure that window. Let's say, you move into it and they didn't tell you the dimensions, stuff like that. Well, you can get a tape measure, and tape measures already have some that are tactually marked. I've seen one that is like on a little what are the tape measures made of? Some kind of like little skinny little plastic thing, and it has like raised circles along the strip where it'll mark either at a foot or inches in between. So that way you'll be able to count to know exactly how much the measurement is. Or you may have these nice little tape measures that kind of like it folds into itself, or it rolls up into itself. Now, when I do that, now I think they do have them tactually marked as well, that you can probably order from American Printing House, which is APH, which is a place out of Kentucky. They may have them through the Amazon people as well. I don't know what Amazon don't have. I'm almost certain the day is going to come. We can probably order a car from Amazon. But anyway, I digress a bit. But now I don't have in my possession none of the tactile mark tape measure, but I do have one. And what I do is I take, like, let's say I'm hanging blinds, or I need to replace some mini blinds at my window. And that way I know exactly when I'm going to go purchase them, what size I need to get. The tape measure will have like a flat end that's probably like maybe an eighth of an inch, maybe about an eighth of an inch or fourth of an inch, that you could put it up against the window panel or sill and pull it out all the way over to the other side. And then the tape measure that I have a little knob or a little switch that can lock it in place, as I'm pulling it out. Or I area that tells me the other side, says how wide it is. I'll lock it. Either someone will work efficient to read me the number where it stops at, or call one of my services like Be My Eyes or Ira to tell me what that number is. Once I get that number, then I know I can go, especially if it's a standard size width window, because the mini blinds do come in different sizes and different widths, because not all windows are at the same size, but there are some universal sizes. So you're almost certain to find blinds that will fit the width of your particular window, or in a particular window. And then even if you're getting, like, let's say drapes or curtains, if anybody uses anymore, because unless you're like in a big house, personally, I don't see drapes that much anymore as I used to. No, everything is the vertical blind or the mini blind that go across. But if you are hanging blind, that you would need whatever. So tape measure can be very good. And then I've even have seen the top point what your measurement is. So yeah, tape measure. Be doing something, either measure subtle width or the. Go ahead, Elisa.
What did you say something about you seen measuring tapes that can talk, or where did you see that at?
No, I said I've heard. I think I saw somebody having one.
Oh, where did you hear that from? Sorry.
I don't remember. I'll be honest. I just know. I know I can recall hearing one, but I'm almost certain. I got you, Kathy. But I'm almost certain the way artificial intelligence is today, they almost have everything talking these days. Like if I probably could search on Amazon for a talking tape measure, most likely I probably will find it. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I was just going to say you can find it. They probably have them at Maxi Aids and LS&S, the catalogs.
Mm-hmm.
They've been around for a few years.
Correct.
Also, one time I adapted one by putting staples every inch.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked okay, but it didn't work well with when you're measuring for clothes.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ed.
Okay, hold on, Ed. There was another gentleman before you.
Yep. Sure.
Marty, go ahead.
Yeah, Maxi Aids. I haven't used it in years, but I do have a talking tape measure.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is it's like a box, and you can actually set, like, when you're measuring something, it will say, do you want to measure including, like, do you want your measurement to include the case or like minus the case? Because the case is about maybe the box that the unit is in is
right.
about like 3 inches.
Okay.
And I think it actually gave you metric and English values.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Ned.
This is Ed.
Oh, Ed, I'm sorry.
I also have a Braille micrometer, which will measure up to mine's actually in metric, but you can get it in inches also. It's about 15 inches long, which if somebody wants to measure small stuff, a lot of small stuff, it really works well. But they're a little pricey. I think mine was about $40 Canadian, which is around $30 American. But they do work well. I'm really happy with it. But I think I got it on Amazon.
Okay. So yeah, Alyssa, to answer your question, the talking tape measures, you can find it at most of our vendors that sell like low vision products, like the Maxi Aids, the LS&S, the Independent Living Aids. American Printouts may have it, or go to your number one go-to place, Amazon, search on there, and they probably have it because, Amazon has actually partnered up with Maxi Aids, and that's why a lot of the adaptive aids you actually can get on Amazon, and in some cases they are cheaper than what they will cost at like your local lighthouses. Because I've gotten like a couple of things that when I went to the local lighthouse here in Houston that has a store that sells like adaptive aids, and when I searched for it on Amazon, it was like 40% cheaper than what they were selling it at the store. So I definitely can try that, and that way, if you do find it, it can be delivered to you. So yeah, we were talking about tape. So tape measure is something you can have, and I like what Kathy did. She is one of the things that I used to teach, how you can use alternative techniques to make something work for you. When she said she put staples on her at a certain point, and as that way she went ahead and tactfully marked her own tape measure. And there's nothing wrong with doing it at all. I mean, it belongs to you. It's yours. You can do it however you want to. Now, we also had talked about I'll get to that in another part of my presentation, when I tell you about how I built this one project. Now, pliers is one thing that you would use definitely for tightening things. It depends on, what it is you need to tighten. They're good for tightening like bolts. Something comes loose, you get a pair of pliers. It's almost kind of like serving the same purpose as a wrench, except the pliers don't have the little wheel that's for tightening the jaws or loosening the jaws. You have to actually use your hand to squeeze to tighten up the particular nut that's around the particular bolt. And pliers come also in different sizes. You also will find them in most of your standard toolkits. Or if you want to buy it separately by themselves, you can do that as well. Sandpaper. Now, sandpaper is something that you use, especially if you are going to start like doing some woodwork and during the project and you want to smooth something out. Let's say, for example, you decided you want to build something, you want to make like a stool or something like that. And you go to your Lowe's, your Home Depots, your hardware store, wherever you can purchase like wood, like 2x4s or 1x4, something like that. Now, whatever kind of wood you've gotten, for the most part, they're going to be kind of rough. The sandpaper is for smoothing it out, giving it like a smoother surface. And you can have like regular sandpaper. That's what you probably will start with at first. And then once you've gotten as smooth as you're going to get it with that regular sandpaper, then you might want to use fine sandpaper, which means it's not nearly as rough, but it's to help make even the surface even more smoother than what you've done with the regular sandpaper. And then you have something called extra fine sandpaper, which make it even more smoother than you would get even when you use the fine sandpaper. When I was I think I had my first industrial arts class when I was in like ninth or 10th grade. And I think I was making something like a cutting board. Something simple there, a little simple project they have us to start with. And we had to do all the sanding. You know, the teacher, he cut the wood for us, or the property was already cut, and we had to sand it down. And we had regular sandpaper. And then we had eventually, once we realized that it's not going to get any smoother than that, then you can move to the fine sandpaper. And then if you want it even smoother than that, when I mean smooth, I mean the surface of the wood. That's when you use the extra fine sandpaper, which is not going to be nearly as rough as the first two that I mentioned. Before you get into waxing it and polishing it so it can have that shine and make it look pretty, whatever that you're building. Now, here's the thing about when you're sanding something. You may have heard the term, do not go against the grain, because you can mess wood up. Sometimes even when people cut hair or cutting during landscape or cutting grass, it says don't go against the grain. And what that means is most of your woods have, like, from the fingertips, you can feel like lines going throughout the wood. Kind of like thin, almost like thinnest thread. You do not want to go across those lines. You want to go with the grain, go with the line. If the lines are vertical, straight up and down, you're going to sand straight up and down that way, not go horizontal against lines that are vertical. Vice versa. If you have lines that are going horizontal, you want to go with the lines, with the little threads that are in the wood, rather than going across them. Am I right, Vincent? Okay. So, any questions about paper?
Yes, I'm sorry. I couldn't get to the. You're right. I couldn't find my unmute button.
Right. Okay. Somebody else wanted to say something? Okay, I thought I heard two voices.
Actually, this is Ed.
Go ahead, Ed.
I might add, George, that if you're sanding something and you want to get it flat and square and smooth, use a block of wood, wrap the sandpaper around the wood, and use that to sand with. And that way it'll come out a lot more even.
I did leave out that important thing and say, yeah, what you going to sand with? Right.
Okay.
You don't want to just take the paper and do with your hand, just slide it. No, that's a workout. So yeah, he's right. You take like a little block of wood. It maybe, depends on what you use, how big your hand is, and put the sandpaper around it. And the part that's going to be in the bottom of it, that's what you're going to use to go back and forth with the sandpaper.
This is Terry.
Go ahead, Terry. Sorry, I was drinking some water.
Thinking about the grain of wood, it's very much like, for those of you who are familiar with cooking, and you have the grain of the meat, whether you cut against the grain of meat,
right,
or with the grain of meat, those have those same kinds of lines that wood has. So if you just think about that will help you to understand what the grain in wood is like as well.
Absolutely. Like I cooked the roast for, Mother's Day. And yeah, if you want to slice your meat, you do want to slice with the grain. It helps it cut a lot better, makes it a lot smoother, and good for presentation as well. You don't want to go against it, because if you go against it, it's going to break up, could crumble up. But it's not going to look that presentable. Now, let's get into, because all you guys can do this. Oh, one more measuring tool that I'm just going to get into, like my next thing I'm going to talk about. Another thing, like if you're measuring something, I mentioned a tape measure. I mentioned a ruler. There's another device that I recommend getting for getting exact measurements to the 16th of an inch. And I was introduced to this particular device probably back in 2000 and probably May of 2006, when I first started working with the state of Texas, and I had to go through a training that we call immersion, where you're learning to do different strategies and for teaching moments that you may have to run across. And one of the things we had to do was woodwork or industrial arts, they call it. And when I had to build my project, I had to do some measurements to the 16th of an inch. And there's a thing called a click rule. The click rule, now this is one particular device. I don't know what it costs now, but when I had gotten one and had seen it, this thing was like about $60. Because it has like clicks, little fine clicks that you can count to know, and then even you can count with your fingernails the amount of threads within this particular part that comes out to know exactly to the 16th of an inch. Like if I'm measuring something, it could be 5 9/16 of an inch, and you have to click just that much and cut just that much, so they be that exact measurement. The click rule is one of these things that if you need something to be that defined, definitely helps, because as you slide it back and forth, it clicks. I should have had it, although I don't think the way the Zoom settings, you guys would have heard like the background clicking. But it's a way of actually measuring exactly to the 16th of an inch once you measure something, because when you're building something, which I'm going to get into when I talk about how I built my little DVD case. Part of the planning process is measuring how much things you're going to need, what you're going to be working with. Has anybody heard of this click rule before that I just talked about?
This is Ed.
Go ahead, Ed.
I think it sounds like you're describing what I called a micrometer, or micrometer. It's like a ruler, and it's got a stop at one end, and it's got a piece that slides along the edge and opens up. And the one that I had was Braille. As it opened up on the piece that moved, it would give you a reading from 0 to 10 or 0 to 9. And then as you're opening up on the rule itself, it gave you the rest of the measurement. Like if you open it up, it'd show an inch on there, and then it'd give you, say, a 16th or a 32nd or whatever on the other part. So like I say, that's called a micrometer, and you can get them in standard measurement or in metric. I have the metric one. They work great.
This is Kathy.
Go ahead, Kathy.
We have a click rule, and I think you have to order them from somewhere in Colorado now, or the last time I had to order one for anybody. But it doesn't have Braille. This one that we have in the U.S., of course, it just has a kind of a raised thing every half an inch, and then like George said, it clicks for the every 16th. So it. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Can't think on my feet. But anyway, it doesn't have any Braille on it, but you can feel it's got 6 inches where it's all raised every inch, every half inch. And you can count the inches and count the clicks to figure out whether you've got 5 9/16.
Miss Linda? Miss Linda?
I think George is muted. Are you there, George?
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, I was muted. There I go.
Oh, there. Okay.
Wow. Okay. I was wondering why I was talking and like. Okay. What I was saying is I'm going to rewind myself. I found my click rule, and I think it is the same concept as what you were describing, Ned, as your micrometer. I know you guys probably can hear, but I'm sliding it back and forth now. And as I'm sliding it back and forth, it is got these little grooves on this little metal rod that's in the middle of it that goes in 16th of an inch. But on the top is a flat surface where they have like raised lines let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, every 1/8 of an inch, there's a raised line. So like the first one is probably in 8/16, the exact measurement, or like the 8th part. And the next line will be 1 inch. and then there's one in between, and then 2 inches. There's a raised line. So it goes like every 8 knots, there's a raised line to, like, if I want to go to, let's see, this would be, and I guess I can count it. 1, 2,
Yes, I think it's
3,
every half
4,
inch. You
5,
got
6, 7,
8/6, half
8.
is 8/8.
Yeah, it is an 8 every half inch. That's correct. So every half inch, there's a raised line. The first one will be at the half of an inch, and then I move it up. That's going to be at 1 inch. And I think this thing goes all the way up to, well, I'm going to slide it all the way out. Because they have extensions you can get with it too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that'll be half of a foot. So every 6 inches, that's where it stops. And I have extensions that I can screw onto the bottom of it if I need to extend it out. And I have like 3 of them. And so this is like the manual one. This one is like, so there's no barrel. And then there's a knob on the other end of it that I can use to lock it in place. And then there's a flat surface that if I want to line it up, it's going to also hold it in place up against whatever I'm putting against. So, but yeah, this one costed about, like I said, like about $60. I don't know what they cost. They may have come down, but that's what they told me. They told me it was called the Click Lab. Maybe I no longer have the packaging to know that's exactly the actual name of it. I got it from Independent Living Aids. So that's one thing to have as well when you're sort of working on projects.
This Kathy.
Any other thoughts? Go ahead, Kathy.
Just wanted to throw out, we might look for this stuff at the NFB, the booth, see what NFB is selling. They may have the click roll and the talking measuring tape.
Mm-hmm.
Linda?
This is Terry.
Linda, go ahead. And then we go to Terry.
Just an FYI, if you don't have a measuring tape with you, a dollar bill is 6 inches long.
Well, there's that. 6 inches by 2 inches, right?
I think so.
That's correct. Go ahead, Terry.
I didn't know that.
I learned it from a lady.
A micrometer and a click rule are one and the same, according to Lady A.
Okay, so there you go, Vincent. I'm not Vincent. Who is it? That was Ned. No, not Ned.
Ed, I believe, who was.
Yeah,
Ed. Ned. Now I need is a Ted in here to really confuse me. Yeah, so I thought it might be the same thing because what you were describing was like the same thing like what I got, except this one doesn't have Braille on it. It says the raised markings. So that's cool. Okay. Now, hold on. I'm doing a time check real quick. Should have this right here on this. Okay, 8:05. Okay. Man, we've been talking for an hour, having fun. All right, now, if anyone, you decide at some point, everyone in here, even if you don't have vision, you can do woodwork. You can do projects because there are things now safely that will allow you to be able to not only measure things, not only be able to cut wood using a table saw as well as using an electric table saw. It just basically having the proper tools to get the thing done. And you can get these things at any local hardware store. If you're going to get like a table saw, the table, it's going to come with the, what do you call it thing? The vice grip that holds the thing in place, hold the wood in place. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ed or Vincent. You guys know about tools. I think it's called a vice grip. That if you are going to be cutting wood,
clamp?
you have. Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's right, because it's shaped like a C when you tighten it up. You're right. And that's to help hold it in place. Once you're going to be doing the sewing, the cutting. And Now, the regular table saw, of course, is probably not as intimidating as an electric saw because an electric saw, it's a machine and depends on what kind you get. And I apologize, I don't have any brand names for you, but some of them are a lot louder than others, which means if you're doing it for the first time or a couple of times, it can sound like oh, I want to jump away from this. I don't want to mess with that. That's too loud. I can't do it. But you can do it because there's a way you can line it up. It's not going to go out of place, especially if you have the table saw. All that's going to stay in the track. That you're not going to be going all over the place. That you're going to probably cut yourself or somebody. Because and especially if you're going to be, let's say, like if I'm working with you, what I learned to do, we're going to explore where everything is, kind of orientate you with all the things that are around you so you know where exactly where everything's at. So if it's going to be like an electric table saw, it's going to be unplugged first. So that way you can touch it lightly to see where everything is, where everything is in place. Adjusting your C-clamps to hold that wood in place to allow you to have an even cut. And once you have gotten extremely orientated with it, where everything is, then that's when we're going to turn it on and you can push the saw. And then it actually moves quite easy as well. Now, when you decide that you're going to, someone had a question?
This is Ed. I just wanted to add, George, and you can get all different sizes of table saws. I have one in the garage which I use for cutting 2x4s and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I also have a miniature table saw. It's about 7 inches by 7 inches, and it has a 2.5-inch blade. So if you want to work on a hobby or a very small project, and you want to look at some of these tools that are available. There are table saws they have a 7-inch bed, mm-hmm. or a 10-inch bed or a 12-inch bed, something that is a tabletop that, and they have vacuum hookups so you don't have sawdust flying all around. I also have a miniature drill press and a miniature belt sander on a stand that I use. So when you're talking saws and power tools, you can get any size, like everything is available. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to look at some of those or check them out, you can find them on YouTube or wherever on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. And you can even go to, your local hardware store and actually want to put your hands on it, because I'm one of those, I do some online shopping. I don't do a lot because I like to touch it first, because sometimes the written description don't give me enough description to say actually exactly what it is I'm getting. Now, once I've touched it, then I probably can get online because I know exactly what I'm ordering. But yeah, he's right. They got the different size table saws now. And that's great that you mentioned about the vacuum, because what sawdust is, in case you guys have never heard that term before, that's basically when you're doing a lot of woodwork, when you're doing a lot of cutting and sanding, it creates all these little fine pieces of wood, especially if you're sanding. It's almost like, kind of imagine that if you are writing, if any of those who probably had vision before, you were writing in pencil. And when you have to erase, and you take a little rub, and you got to scrub it on the paper to erase whatever it is you have made a mistake with. The little pieces of rubber all over your paper, you got to take your hand and brush it off to get it out the way because it's made a mess. Well, that's what sawdust is. When you're cutting, when you're sanding, whenever you're doing woodwork, a whole lot of this little pieces of wood is very, very fine, builds up, and it causes a lot of dust, makes a mess. And sometimes you have to, I think when I first was working with wood, we had a air gun that we would take and squeeze it, kind of look like a regular water, like a hose, but only air would come out, not water, and to move away all of the sawdust from off of the table where we're doing our work at. And that thing also was like an air pressure to put more air into it. But when you got like the vacuum, Like when I built my project about 17 years ago in my immersion training, whenever we were cutting something or turn on like the table saw, it was electric. The vacuum will automatically kick on after like about 3 seconds, so that when we're cutting the wood, it's already vacuum all of that dust up into wherever it goes. And that's like a little fancy setup in this big old room. But I'm sure if anybody has a garage in their house, this is why I would suggest that you would set up where you're going to do your project at. That's one thing to do too, going into that. If you're going to be working on something, pick a designated work area, whatever it's in your garage, one corner, under your shed, in your backyard, whatever it is. Pick a place and keep everything there. Keep it as well organized so that when all of your tools organized. So if you need something, you know exactly where it's at. You don't have to be searching all over for it, going over the house, going up in the attic, going in the junk drawer, something like that. Have everything right there because it just help keep everything, all in place whenever you need it. If it's certain little small tools or whatever the case may be, have a designated workstation. Now, when
This is Vincent.
Go ahead, Vincent.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing that I would suggest is whenever you're using power tools, I use a face mask and I use goggles.
Yes, safety goggles.
Safety goggles.
Because things tend to fly. That's correct. He's absolutely right. And you can get those too. It's like thick. If anybody has wore like sunglasses or sunshades, these are like bigger and they're thicker, and it helps to protect your face. So keep that in your work area as well. Matter of fact, when we was working on something, we had to have those on. It was no questions out. You had to put them on before you do anything else. Now, once you have decided what you're going to work on your workstation, and like when I had decided to, we had to pick what we wanted to build. I decided I wanted to build me a CDC, not CDC, a CD/DVD shelf, which means the first thing I did was I had to decide how many shelves I wanted to be, then how big I wanted to be, meaning how tall and how wide. So in order to determine that, I took a DVD case, a regular DVD case, since it's going to probably be mainly for DVDs. I know we don't use it anymore, so I'm probably sounding very old school. But I took this click rule or any type of ruler, and I measured I guess that'll be the length of the DVD case if I stand it up straight, because I want to make sure it's going to fit comfortably on the shelf. So I needed the length of it as well as the width, because I want to make sure that not only the shelf is going to be enough space apart, but I also want to leave some room in the back of the DVD so it won't be hanging over. So I had to carefully measure, since I decided I'm going to make it a DVD case, the length and the width of this DVD case, and that I wanted maybe like an inch or two to give it room behind it as I'm standing them up and above it, so they would fit comfortably. So once I had that measurement down, I think it was like 1 9/6 of an inch. I don't remember exactly, and I don't have a DVD in front of me here that I can measure. But like I said, this was done in 2006 of May. Once I had those measurements down, then the next step was to what kind of wood I want to use. And, they had another wood supply. So whatever wood I wanted to check, once I picked the kind of wood I wanted to use, then I had to know exactly the measurement for how the depth I wanted my DVD case to be, as well as how tall I wanted to be and how many shelves I wanted. And this one, I think I had decided I wanted 3 shelves. I don't have it anymore, but I think I had 3. Did I have 3 or did I have 5? Hold on. I think it was 3. So that means whatever the length of the DVD case, and that I wanted maybe like an inch extra so that I can pull them out and put them in without any difficulty at all. That's going to determine how tall this shelf is going to be. And once I put all those numbers together, and then so once I pick my wood, they had me to go and measure the wood using the click rule to put it on the table saw, locked it in place, because they had like a long piece of wood that they put in each end. And then I was able to use these little, I forgot what the sliding part is called, where I can put it in place to know exactly, once I had measured the wood, how long I wanted the wood to be. They locked that in place, and then I just had to hit the button. It's like about maybe an inch or 2 under the top of the table, press it, and then slide the saw forward, and it cut that wood, made an even cut. And I think I remember, and this is why when I indicated, I think if you guys were here at the beginning, I had some guest speakers that I was trying to come on here who works in that area. They told me about how the safety method that you use to spread your hand out, from one edge to the next, so you know exactly where you're going to be cutting from, and how to set the wood in place. And I know I'm struggling right now because I'm trying to remember what that area was called. But once my wood was cut, and the amount of pieces of wood I need, because I needed, since I was having 3 shelves, that means I needed a top to cover everything. I needed a bottom. I needed a 1, 2, 3 boards in between, so that the bottom shelf, the second shelf, and the third shelf will also be covered. And then I had to make the sideboard so that it'd be the whole height of the shelf is in place. So that wood was cut. Then I was going to have a back, which means I need a little flat, thin piece of wood. I forget what that wood is called, but it's very thin. You find it in most shelves, most bookshelves, things like that. It's not nearly as thick as your sideboards or the shelves in between. They're like real thin, like probably like maybe probably 2/16 of an inch in depth. But that goes on the back.
It's like plywood?
Plywood. Thank you, plywood. That goes in the back. Now, to put all this together, we used finishing nails. Finishing nails, we didn't even talk about nails at the beginning, but they got all different kinds of nails too. These finishing nails, if you have touched a nail before, you have the point on one end that you're going to use to hammer into the wall, or if you're hanging something or whatever you're going to do with a nail, hammer a nail in. But they have like a little flat part on top of the nail. Well, now the finishing nails don't have a flat part on top. It's just pointing on one end and pointing on the other end. It's almost like a needle. And these will be found in nail guns. A nail gun is that these finishing nails are in, and once you have put at the spot where you want to, like for example, on my DVD shelf, once I had my top shelf, the cover will be on top and on each board, holding that in place. I will take the nail gun, put it at the end so that they line it up, and we pull the trigger, and it will shoot it inside, not only from the top, but also inside of the wood to hold it in place. And that way, there won't be like the little flat part sticking out. The whole nail's like going into it just enough to hold it in place. And I think I did it like about maybe 3 or 4 times, depends on the width of what it is I'm nailing together. And that's for like good finishing part. Then, now if I happen to, just for look purposes, and you guys may have seen this like on bookshelves, if you happen to put like regular nails or some sort of screw and you want to hide that exposed head, they got these little stickers you can put over it that will be like the same color as the thing that you're designing, and gives it a good look that you're not actually seeing the end of a nail or end of a screw on the outside because it's covered by the sticker to give it that look. Now, before I put nail everything together, I went to the part of where we were sanding it because I want the shelf to have a smooth surface. So, I went to the process of using different sandpapers, the fine sandpaper and then the extra fine sandpaper, however I wanted my surface how smooth I wanted it to be. Using that block, wrapping the sandpaper around it. So that was a process. Sanding it down, getting it all smooth, all of my pieces of wood. Once I had gotten all of the pieces of wood that I'm going to use for my shelf smooth, then that's when you can either two things. I can go ahead and nail everything together with the finishing nails, or since I want to probably give it like a shine or a certain look, this is where I can use like this. I don't know if it's wax or paste, Vincent or Ed, you guys can help me out. Like when you're polishing the wood, it helps gives it like that finishing touch. Which, and remember, this is a project, so it's not going to be nearly as smooth as what you might find buying something off out of a store where they're using like machinery and then it's an industrial thing.
Well,
but it was smooth enough. Go ahead.
This is Ed.
Mm-hmm.
You can use a thing called min wax. It's like a wood wax. So if you wanted to, if you had your wood all sanded and you wanted to put a stain on it and make it a nice, a darker finish, you could put that finish on. And then instead of putting like a varathane or like a clear coat on it, you can just put on min wax and you spread it. I've used steel wool to put on the min wax, and then you buff it with you can buff it with a soft cloth or a wool pad on a drill or whatever, depending on how particular you are. But min wax gives you a really nice finish.
This is Vincent.
Go ahead, Vincent.
Sometimes what I have used is before putting any stain on the wood is I use a sealer to so it will not, so the stain will be spread evenly. So the sealer is very thin. You just can spread it with I usually use some cotton, not a brush, but a piece of material before using any wax or any stain.
What kind of a seal?
It's called the wood sealer, I believe.
Well, if you seal the wood before you put the stain on, the stain won't go into the wood.
Oh, that's true.
You should use your stain first and get it the color you want, and then you can use a varathane or a varnish.
Right. It's the other way around.
Varathane is like a plastic finish, and varnish is more of it's a natural product. But I've used varathane before, and I've used actually a nylon. You take a nylon stocking, and you wad it up in a ball, and you use that to spread the varathane on, and it puts it on very, very, very thin, rather than using a paintbrush, and that works really well.
This Kathy.
Go ahead, Kathy.
My question is, so is this something a blind person can do, or do you really want sighted assistance to get the varnish on? If I spread it all over like till I think I've got it everywhere, is that good enough, or does it really need somebody to check it?
This is Ed. That's why I suggest using the wax rather than the varnish, because the wax is just wax, and it seals it. Not as well as a varnish or varathane, but it's easier to put on. Like the wax, you can't go wrong. You put it on and wipe it off. I finished like antique. I did an antique radio with just wax and stain, and it looked beautiful. That's when I had sight.
Well, that's good to know.
This is Vincent.
Go ahead, Vincent.
I got because I got it all over the place also. So what I got eventually was a workbench. So that's where I can put, like the power tools, use the C-clamps, do the sanding, do the, any staining or waxing or whatever, and not worry about the surface that I'm working on. Because otherwise I've ruined tables, working areas.
Right.
So the best thing is if you have room, if you have a basement or something, or if you can, working outdoors doesn't work unless you have a shed or something. But the workbench is probably the best thing to have if you do regular work.
This is Terry.
Good, Terry.
I think Kathy's question, though, was if you're trying to finish a piece of wood that you're using to make your project. Myself, I've done like minimal of that kind of thing, but I always had somebody double check because I just to make sure I didn't miss any little place. I felt very comfortable using a pair of eyes that were a whole lot better than mine, and mine are fake, so you know how, so to make sure you get every little piece of that wood that you're trying to cover with whatever the finish is that you're using. But Ed is exactly right. Wax is a good thing. And I think it comes off if you get some on your hand or whatever, it comes off more easily than does varnish or stain. That's a nightmare to get off if you get that on your hands. It doesn't come off right away, usually, anyhow. But anyway, that's my thinking there. I would love to have a good pair of eyes to double check. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
And I would say it's one of these things, especially if you're doing it for the first time. Yes, you probably are going to, it would be advisable to have like some good eyes to make sure everything is covered, whatever you're polishing or waxing. But once you have gotten it down and you know exactly where things should go, it's almost like painting your nails, that eventually you would develop a skill, develop the act to know exactly how to make sure you're covering everything. And then even then, especially if you want good presentation, have somebody to look at it, whatever, some good working eyes or, one of the services.
This is Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent.
Also, if I'm going to do some staining and I'm doing it by hand, I use gloves, rubber gloves, so I don't have to worry about.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. But I can understand Kat the same, because those of us who probably don't have an invention, we want to put our hands on stuff. Yeah, sometimes gloves take that sensitivity away. I do understand the reason why for it, that you will need it. But it's good to use something that will be easily washed off of your hands. Like he mentioned, like the wax is probably a lot easier to get off than touching the varnish. And then that may take a lot of scrubbing to get off.
This is Ed.
Right. Go ahead, Ed.
And there is Varathane that you can buy now that is water soluble. So that is an easy cleanup for brushes and that.
Okay.
This is Vincent.
All right, go Vincent, and then Kathy.
Yes. Also, if you're going to be using, if you need several, if you're going to have different shelves, like 2 or 3 shelves of a particular measure. Let's say if you're going to have them 9-inch in length, and you need 3 of them, you can go to the store and they usually sell the long planks, and they can cut it at the store for you for
That
the
too.
whatever length you desire, and then you're saving.
You're absolutely right. Home Depot does do that. Where if you know how long you want your living, they will cut it for you without no additional cost too. All right, Kathy, you have something extra? Or did we answer your question?
I have a project for all of you woodworkers. I'm looking for someone to make some 3-dimensional tic-tac-toe boards where it's like a pegboard, and you've got round circles and squares, and you can, the pegs are tall enough for 3, so you can play 3-dimensional tic-tac-toe, which is a little more challenging than just regular tic-tac-toe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I saw a wooden set, which I have, but the person who sold them, she could never tell me where she got them from. Carry on.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, when I was talking about this nail gun and how this thing shoots it, I think it's like compressed air inside this gun, because I could hear the air flowing, and then when I pull the trigger, it just shoots it in there. Sometimes you hear that when people I don't know if you guys have been around the house when they actually are putting on a new roof or doing roof repair. You hear them, it sounds like they are stapling something. I think that's the air gun that they're using to shoot out these finishing nails. So that was kind of a lot of fun and good experience that I had with that. I don't know exactly how much the nail gun cost, but it wasn't that light either. Now,
this is Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent.
Also, you need to have a stud finder to attach the brackets to the wall where you're going to put your shelves.
Uh-huh.
So I know I have a stud finder that has that beeps when you get to the beam. Right. So I know where you can always knock on the wall and find out.
Yeah, I'm about to say that's what I do. I like knocking on because you can hear a hollow sound and a solid sound to know this is where you can nail into it. But the shelf that I built, actually was a standalone shelf. There's something I could just stand up, kind of like a small bookshelf. But what you're talking about, that is something that you can do. Use a stunt finder or knock on the wall and listen for the hollow sound or the solid sound that okay, this is where the 2x4 is at, that you can nail something in and it will hold it in place. Now, once I had nailed it all together, that's what I was about to lead it to. Either two things. Yeah, you can put the wax on it or whatever before I nail everything together, or I can nail everything together and put it on afterwards, where I'm just going all over on each side, whatever it's the top, the sideboards, the shells in between, just getting a little bit there. And I think that's what I ended up doing. I think I put everything together first, and then I did the wax and stuff afterwards, since it was all in one place. And we've had it like on a table with a tablecloth, so that when I was done, all they got to do is take out the disposable tablecloth away, ball it up, put it in the trash. So that's another thing too. When you set up your workstation, especially if you're going to be doing like the finishing part, put some kind of disposable tablecloth on the table in all the area, so that once you're done, just close it all up with all of the dust and wax and stuff in between it, and just put it in the trash. And that way you have preserved the table that you were working on, or whatever workstation that you was working on. And I was quite proud of that. I think I finished. It took me, I don't remember how long it took. I don't know if it took 2 or 3 different sessions or class periods, whatever it was. But it stayed together. I had it. It lasted for I think I just lost it due to flooding because of some storm like last September. But I had it, for all of those years. I had DVDs on it. Still got the DVDs, but don't have the shelf anymore. So that means I got to purchase me some tools, Ed and Vincent, and go build it again, since I still have a sort of a vivid memory as to how it was done. Got to go get those supplies. But, once you complete something like that, it kind of like makes you get on the road. You want to say, okay, what can I build next? Let me make myself a stepping stool. If we have any ladies in the room who probably struggle trying to reach things on top shelves, and yeah, you can build a step stool. Just get the right kind of wood, get the right supplies. Go if you don't have like the table saw or the electric saw on there, then you can go to the Home Depots and have them to cut it for you. Oh, there's one step I did forget I left out. Besides all of the sanding and the waxing and all of that, when I cut this wood, and all my wood still had these pointed edges on all sides, so they had me to use a thing called a rounder. This was like this thing weighed about maybe 7 pounds. I don't remember, but it had like a little needle on top, and it's good for rounding your edges of the wood, so it won't be so pointy, so fine, at the corners or at the top part of it. And in the rounder, you can, you round off the edges, so it helps make a good presentation as well. And then if you want for fancy designs, they got a thing called a wood file. Somebody did mention that at the beginning when we was naming different small tools, where you can probably use this wood file to make like little indentions all over the place at a certain amount of length, whether they're 2 inches apart or a half an inch apart, something like that, just to give it like a little fancy design. However you have drawn it up or have put it in your mind how you want the thing to look. That's what that wood file is for. And that is how I did my whole DVD shelf. Again, it had 3 shelves. I made it wide enough that on each shelf I had, I think, 20 DVDs in the case. Just like the DVD case, not just a little flat disc itself. But within the case, I think 20 of them were able to fit on each shelf. So I was able to hold 60 DVDs in this one shelf. Any questions, any thoughts, any comments?
Ed, comment?
Go ahead, Ed.
I was thinking about staining, and I just wanted to say that if you plan on staining something, don't be afraid to put a lot of stain on. Like as long as you have a drop cloth under it, you can just slap the stain on with a brush or whatever as much as you want. Let it soak into the wood, and just let it soak in and dry out. Or you can wipe it off with a cloth. But that way, if there's lots of stain on there, you're not going to miss a spot. One of my last projects that I did, I refinished our kitchen table, which was a round red oak table with a pedestal and 4 they're a chair. The back is rounded with things in the middle. I refinished all of those myself. I stripped it all off, and I just kept stripping it. And I think I stripped it about 3 times before I was happy with it. And when I stained it, I think I put 2 or 3 coats of stain on it because I didn't want to miss any spot. And I couldn't put too much on because it was oak. You won't make it darker in one spot or lighter in another. And that's how I did it. I did the whole set myself. It took me quite a while, but if you work away at something like that, you can do it. And then I did varathane, and I think I put probably 3 or 4 coats of varathane on it, just to make sure that I got everything covered. And we're still using that today, and I think it was probably, I guess, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago at least that I did it. And I was totally blind when I did it, by the way.
Awesome.
But you can do it. Just have to work away at it. But lots of stain. Don't be afraid of it. Okay?
Okay. Anybody got any questions for Ed and Vincent? These are your woodwork experts tonight.
Hey, it all depends on how long the nail is.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thin pieces of wood. You have to. I was trying to put a dresser drawer together. I ran out of nails, but I got it came loose again, so I got to put it together again. I'm thinking about making a bookcase out of the old dresser drawer. Can you make a bookcase out of an old dresser drawer?
Ed, comment?
Good, Ed.
You can also use screws for something like that. Nails, to me, a nail, and if you get a common nail, it'll slide out, so it'll loosen up. There are spiral nails which work better, but if I'm putting thinner furniture together, I would much rather use screws, pre-drill the holes in what the screw is going through so it's nice and square. And if it's going into the end of a shelf or something, just line it up so it's nice and straight. And there are small-headed screws that you can get. In fact, there's a screw called it's called a CAD screw, and it's a headless screw. It was in with a Torx tip, and the tip of the screw, the head of the screw, is the size of the threads. But there's two sets of threads on the screw. There's a fast screw, the serrated part. It's on a sharp angle, but the part that's up by the head is not as sharp of an angle. So when you put the screw into the wood, the bottom part pulls it in fast, and then the top that you're trying to hold against the other piece of wood, it pulls it in slow, so it works like that rather than using a head, and it leaves a very small hole in the wood, and you can just fill it or fill it with wood glue and sand it down, and it'll fill in the hole. I've used those to build decks, and the holes literally disappear in the wood after a while. But that's another solution.
One good thing about using screws over nails too, because like you said, nails are smooth; they can easily just come out again. Whereas the screws has these threads, and if they're falling in place to the groove when you're screwing it in, that actually helps to stay in there a lot longer than just having like a smooth nail.
Yep.
This is Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent.
Also, in order to make sure that you are that the nails or the screws are going in the right place in the shelves, on the side of the panels, you have to start. I usually use either a nail or a screw, just to put it in maybe an eighth of an inch, so there will be a slight indentation. So whenever whenever the screw or the nail goes through the side panel, then I can feel that it's going in the hole in the area where I wanted, in the middle of the panel, so it will not be off to the too high or too low, or then it will be safe, more secure.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ed.
Go ahead.
Another solution to that is pre-drill where you're putting the screw through the panel. You pre-drill a hole a little smaller than the screw, of course, and you start your screw. You screw it in, and if the hole is square, then the screw will go in square. That really helps. And if you're using raw wood, unfinished wood, and you're screwing it together before you finish it, you could also use wood glue. Wood glue and screws, and it'll never come apart.
Now, one thing I wanted to cover before we wrap up, I didn't discuss hammering. Now, here's the thing about if you're doing any type of hammering, whether it's, if you're hanging like a calendar, you're hanging pictures or some sort of decorative things on your wall. And even if you're blind or not, just keep in mind that unfortunately sometimes you're gonna hit your thumb. Just something that's sort of unavoidable. But you got to be just be careful that when you, especially if you know how long, whatever it is that you're hanging, how thick, I mean, how long the screw is or how long the nail is that you're hanging something on, and use like your thumb and your index finger to hold it in place. Use only the tips because you definitely want to leave room so you're just going to hit the nail or the screw rather than just hitting your own finger. And take the hammer. You know, the hammer has like that smooth part in the end that you're actually going to do the hammering on. That's the part that sticks out for using to remove nails. And tap it like a couple of times, so you know you can fit. You will know the range where you need to hit at, and how far to pull the hammer back to hit again. And once you have that in place, you hit it like 2 or 3 times, not real hard, but hard enough that it is going to go in when you're coming back. And it may take, it depends on how thick or thin that sheetrock is or that wood is that you're hammering into, will determine how much pressure you need to put on the hammer, how many times you have to beat the hammer onto the nail, or whatever the case may be. Now, one thing you can do, like, because I hang in my dining room, I always hang a low vision calendar, which has like the hole at the top of the page, and it's a big old calendar. Now, I don't use a nail for it. I could if I want to, but I like using a screw because, again, that's going to help it stay in place before for the reason that I had mentioned earlier. When you have the screw going into the the threads that are inside the wall will help hold it in place more than just having a smooth nail into there that could easily come out. And I would probably take the screw. Not probably. This is what I do. I take the screw. I may tap it even with the back of the screwdriver a little bit just to get the indention into the wall so I can get it started. Not all the way, just a little bit. Then I basically take my index finger and thumb, hold it in place, and I take a screwdriver and just screw it in there. So that way I don't have to do any hammering, and I don't have to beat up my thumb or my finger. And just leave enough space that you can allow the calendar that I'm hanging, that you can put it over the head of that screw to hold it in place. And then once I get it in there, then I screw the rest to hold it in place. So that's one way it will stay, I think, up there a lot firmer than just using a nail. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, ideas?
This is Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
So I was a rehab teacher, and you go into someone's home and they have all these questions for you. And some guy asked me about hammering, and I was trying to think, what would the adaptation be? And, just dopey. All I could come up with was, well, couldn't you just, don't go so far back with the hammer. Just, tap it and don't take as big a hit. And he said, then I'd be hammering like a girl. So,
well, hey, you could just tell him, and that's what I do because as a rehab teacher myself, yeah, just don't go so far back because you don't want to go so far back that you miss your mark. And then you're just going to hit the wall or you're going to hit your thumb or your finger. No. If you do it enough, you would know exactly how far back you would need to go. And because the main objective is we want to get this nail into this wall as best we can without beating ourselves up.
This is Vincent.
I didn't know that the screw was the answer.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Vincent.
Yeah, think of it. I don't know if you play golf, but when you're in the green, and you are going to try to put the ball in the hole, you don't take a long swing. You take a very, very short swing. So it's the same thing with a hammer. You want precision. You don't want power. You don't want too much strength. Otherwise, the ball will go past the hole.
That's the hole, and then you got to start all over, or have more strokes to your hole.
This is Ed.
Go ahead, Ed.
If you're putting a nail into drywall, it's only plaster, so it's not like you need a lot of You don't need a big hammer for that. I mean, you can.
No.
If you put something on the end of that nail, you can virtually push it into the drywall. You don't have to hammer it. The other thing I might add is that what I do a lot of when I'm hanging something and it's got any weight to it at all, I'll put in a wall anchor, and I use a screw and a screwdriver, and I'll screw that screw into the wall, and then just move the screw around and open up the hole a bit, and use the screw as a file to file the hole out big enough that I can push the wall anchor into the wall. And there are many different types of wall anchors. There are just the plastic ones that you push in, and when you put the screw into the middle of the wall anchor, it opens up the back of it so it won't pull out of the wall. And if you put something really heavy on a wall, I just used one a couple of weeks ago. It was a heavy metal thing that we have hanging in our entranceway, and I used a metal wall hanger. It comes with a screw in the middle of it. I had to make the hole pretty big. I push it into the wall, and then you tighten the screw up, and it expands the back of the wall anchor out. It splits into 3 sections and pulls it back against the back of the wall, so it'll never come out of that wall.
There you
and
go.
then you just back the screw off and hang whatever you want on the screw. So there's many ways you can do that, but George's idea of the screw is excellent, and I use that a lot for lighter stuff.
This is Terry.
Hey, Terry.
I think wall anchors, at least the small ones, I think are also called mollies, if I'm thinking of the same thing. And you put the screw through the plastic. The ones I've seen are plastic, and they help to anchor the screws so that hold the screw and the whatever you're putting on the wall. I think they call those mollies as well.
Yeah, and they come in all different sizes, many different
Right.
sizes. Yeah. I've never heard them referred to as mollies, but not to say that isn't true.
This is Vincent.
Hey, Vincent.
Yeah, I also use them. I have heavy curtains in the to keep the sun out, and for those I definitely use the metal anchors. You need strong support for heavy items.
Okay, absolutely. All right, guys, we are near the end of the hour. It is 8:53 my time here. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Hello,
I
this
will.
is Arlo. I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is Terry with.
So when you
Okay.
use the screwdriver to tighten in the screw, how would you know if it's tightened up or the screw is loose?
You would know if it's tightening up as you're turning, as you are twisting it like clockwise, and you can feel the sensation that it actually is getting tight if you're getting it tightened up. You talking about if you screwing something into a wall, or I don't know if I'm answering your question.
The chair, let's say you're building a chair and you're putting a screw and you're using the screwdriver to tighten the screw. So how can you tell if it's tight?
Oh, I got you. Yeah, we were discussing it earlier, and Ed, you can jump in here too. That once, let's say if you're using a power screwdriver or even a regular screwdriver, once it starts giving, if you're using the power screwdriver, you hear it click, which means it's not going to go any further. You want to be careful not to put too much pressure on it because you don't want to strip it.
No.
And yeah, you know when it's time to stop. Even when you're using a regular manual screwdriver, you can feel when it's time to stop. Because the bottom line is you don't want to screw too much because you don't want to strip it.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Terry. I think you had a final comment or a question.
Yes, I have a question. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if
I
a
knew it was
woodchuck
coming.
could chuck wood? I just had to say that.
Hey, I like that. That was perfect.
Just for a
Well
little levity
placed.
there.
Well placed. That was good. That was good.
Mhm.
Well, next month, guys, we are approaching our summer month, which also we're approaching our hurricane season here in the Gulf South. Not that we're going to be talking about only hurricanes, but we're going to be talking about disaster preparedness. I think we did this before. I think it was last year or year before last. So we're going to be discussing those type of things next month, the fourth Thursday in June, which is going to be June the 29th. 29th. No. I'm sorry. Is the 22nd? That's the 22nd.
The 29th is the fifth Thursday of the month. You're right.
Right. So June 22nd.
Second.
So that will be the next version of It's iBUG's Life. And I hope I will see all of you guys in. Tell somebody about it. Bring them to it as well. And I want to thank each and one of you for being here tonight, listening to my story, my presentations. Thank you again, Ed. Thank you, Vincent, for you guys' expertise on assisting me with this. I couldn't have done it without any of y'all, and I definitely couldn't do it without you guys being here. So
thank you, and it's my pleasure, and I learned lots too.
There you go.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. Thank you,
George.
And thank you, Julie, for being at Mission Control.
There you go.
Thanks a lot. I also learned a lot.
Very good.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah,
everyone.
Night.
All righty. Some good music. I knew it.
Hammer. Now just use a screw. Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Julie.
Good night, everybody.